Good evening everyone, and welcome back to another edition of my What If Spider-Man Replaced Batman series. Today we're going into year 5 of Peter's career as Spider-Man. So, back in the grimy streets of Gotham once again, our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has found himself deeply affected by the events of the previous year. Gotham simply just doesn't respect Spider-Man anymore. The wisecracking, the jokes, the catchphrases, they're done with him. Much of his attempts to clean up his image have been in vain. And so Spider-Man has mostly dropped the friendly part of his moniker, just now focused on using his powers responsibly again, trying to make up for the years he was corrupted by the demon. I think Peter wouldn't see himself as completely free of blame. He had that immense power, and he couldn't control it. His uncle's dying words slipped from his mind so easily. Turning 20 has meant our hero has matured a little as well. No longer the energetic teenager he once was. I think it's right that Spider-Man adopts a sleek new suit to reflect this sort of dark chapter in his life. I've always been a fan of the red on black, so it would definitely be along those lines. Less vibrant, more muted. There's no point in trying to attract attention. He would have definitely developed some more fancy gadgets to make up for the loss of powers. Web bombs? Can't think of any more. And yeah, this suit would have a sort of utility belt. Maybe. I haven't seen it physically, so maybe it looks wrong on a Spider-Man suit. But you know, it is a staple of the DC universe. Well, Gotham at least. Since last year, Peter has worried those closest to him. Specifically his Aunt May. She would have seen Peter in a destructive and volatile mood to suddenly be doused in melancholy. She would urge him to speak to her or someone, but Peter can't. He can't let those close to him know what's going on lest they be forcibly dragged into his other life. Imagine if one of his enemies like the Joker found out about Aunt May. At the least, she makes Peter promise her to seek further education such as a college degree or equivalent. Peter is a brilliant mind and she has witnessed it firsthand. In her eyes, he has a gift to give to the world. If only she knew the truth. Dick Grayson would be 16 during year 5. Despite the many mistakes Peter made in the suit, he doesn't consider retiring the Scarlet Spider one of them. This life is far too dangerous, and there is too much heat against Spider-Man to bring Dick Grayson back into their life. This causes a massive rift between the two. Dick sees Peter as hypocritical, as he was even younger than he when he first took to the streets as Spider-Man. If he had still been his partner, maybe he would have been aware of what was going on and be able to get him help far sooner. Peter shut everyone off. And that was his mistake. Dick is right in a sense. Peter did shut everyone off and thought he should be the only one protecting the city. He internalizes that and vows to do better. He and Spider-Woman have formed a new type of partnership where, unlike Dick, he isn't directly responsible for her, and she is certainly capable. Spider-Woman uses his name for sure, but she has very much evolved past him. She basically saved him, and so now it's Spider-Man trying to make it up to her. He gives her web shooters and other gadgets such as electric webs that would benefit her. Barbara has gained the trust of Spider-Man once again, and she's been at the forefront of crime fighting alongside Zatanna and the Birds of Prey. It's certainly possible that our big boss Selina Kyle has also teamed up with the Birds of Prey, kind of like sponsoring them, utilizing her mass connections in Gotham's underworlds for the good of the city, becoming essentially like a mafia boss version of Bruce Wayne. So, as we can see, Peter is slowly dipping his toes into team-ups again. More on Barbara. I see her also taking a secondary role similar to Oracle, where when she's not active, she'll take that backseat role and guide the heroes in Gotham. During this year, there's certainly more of a connection formed between the different heroes in Gotham. Not a direct family as of yet, but they're working on it. If there's to be a leader, it would definitely be Barbara. Furthermore, since graduating in the last year, I can definitely see her trying to pursue a further career in the GCPD with her father. It's like a retirement plan of sorts. We haven't actually spoken about Commissioner Gordon in a while. Since losing control of the city to Joker and the Sinister Six, much of the blame was placed on him. His close connection with Spider-Man was leaked and is very much well known, so while he retains a job, there is a lot of pressure upon him. Anti-Spider-Man groups have destroyed the Spider Signal. It would be a problem if it was even used in the first place anyway. Gordon, for the sake of his job and sanity, has cut connections with Spider-Man and associates. Publicly, that is. Surely there's a lot of places in Gotham to talk secretly, right? Despite this, the GCPD are doing very well. Crime rates have dropped significantly, and so this is also attributed to Gordon as well. Touching on the topic of Barbara once again, she and Peter have reconnected since last year, majorly due to the efforts of Aunt May. As one of the people that Peter distanced himself from, she knew there was something wrong, but her occupation as Spider-Woman was something that kept her from checking up on him. She feels like she kinda neglected him in his time of need, and so she feels severely wrong for that. She remembers missing him at graduation. She also remembers having to slip out during the celebrations to go on patrol. There's the idea that they both missed prom, and so they kinda bond over that. Peter promises her that they'll make up for it, and this leads into their first date. Ooh. So not everything is bleak for Peter, but for Spider-Man, it's a different story. News quickly broke of Spider-Man losing the powers that made him unstoppable, and so once again, every vile villain you can imagine seeks his head. It's harder for Peter this time. His reflexes are all twisted due to the creeper. Luckily his spider sense is working again, but if he's not focusing, he'll unconsciously move to tank a hit, though now he has no healing factor to save him. The source of all of this, the Joker, has somehow continued to escape Arkham Asylum undetected, his new sidekick, Harley Quinn, in tow. Joker desperately wants to see someone claim his bounty and is not shy of having a go himself. He is enamored by the chaos it causes, how it drives people to insanity. It's like his idea of fun. Perhaps his bounty attracts the wrong sort of attention though. From the island of Santa Prisca comes a being born amongst filth and scum. The man known as Bane seeks the bounty and to finally fight this Spider-Man. Having grown interested over the previous years, he bided his time while Spider-Man had undergone his burlesque era. Now he comes to Gotham to claim what he sees as his, and the Joker's eyes light up. He thinks that this may be the man to finally do it. When Bane arrives, Joker is there to welcome him, and similar to the Arkham Origins game, they will sort of team up. However, I do believe this version of Bane will work to undermine the Joker. He knows of him, though he has no fear or respect for him. Bane isn't someone who will submit easily. Joker is a twisted sort of creature who thrives on control and power. An example of this is his abusive relationship with Harley Quinn, a woman hopelessly in love with him, and to bend to his every whim like he's playing with putty. If Bane comes to Gotham and ignores the hierarchical structure of power already in place, is that... I just realized where I got that line from. I think I got it from The Rock. If Bane ignores the structure of power that's already in place, the one that sees Joker at the top, this will just kinda piss him off. Excuse my language. Or maybe he's into that sort of thing. Let's talk about that a bit also. The villain hierarchy. In year 0, it was very clearly Penguin at the top of everything. But ever since then, he's been in jail, still with immense influence, but Spider-Man's further efforts against the mob has mostly dwindled that. Filling the void is Selina Kyle, though she's gone somewhat clean. Spider-Man will obviously not know the extent of her dealings, but on the forefront she appears to be on the side of good. But clearly, much of Gotham's underworld may not be inclined to side themselves with Selina as they did for Penguin. Therein comes Joker, with the mysterious amounts of power and influence, setting the tone with his ridiculous bounty and easily dominating the underworld and its villains. So it becomes clear that Joker is on top, for now. So let's skip all this. Bane and Joker will quickly assert dominance over Gotham. In the comics, when he escaped the prison to descend upon Gotham in what became known as the Nightfall storyline, Bane had initially brought accomplices along with him. Similar thing would happen here. It's also to be noted that Bane is highly intelligent and manipulative, so it's certainly possible for him to recruit additional thugs whilst in Gotham. On appearance, Bane looks as if he were a simple hulking brute, his enhancement drug Venom turning him into some brainless monster. But you would be a fool to think this. When Bane initially challenged Batman, he worked to undermine him slowly, chipping away at him until he could finally shatter him. He didn't want to outright attack Batman hastily, but with Spider-Man he has a different sort of reputation. There's no mystique or legendary status associated with him. In fact, the lack of respect surrounding him means that Bane doesn't have to waste time trying to outwit Spider-Man or like figuring out his secret identity, for instance. What will Peter Parker do for him? He's really a nobody. It's the Spider he wants.
If nothing else, I can at least learn the Flash's secret identity. I have no idea who this is.
Much of the work has already been done for him, and so Bane will be the final nail in the coffin. This image of light, whatever the Spider pretends to be, Bane wants it consumed by darkness, sailing on a wave of corruption that threatens to level Gotham. His arrival descends the city into a drug epidemic, with Bane forming a network of gangs all pleading to him, pumping into the city like a virus. Violent crimes will shoot up tenfold as his people start smuggling all types of stuff into the sea. Throughout this time, the birds of prey plus Spider-Man will be stretched thin across the sea trying to stop the wave, trying to find Bane. But he is not ready yet. Spider-Man isn't ready. Like Nightfall, Bane seeks to psychologically destroy Spider-Man by showing him just how easy it is for him to lose control of the city. Over the next few weeks, Bane's plan succeeds. Spider-Man's mental state deteriorates, though he has better sense than to descend into the madness he saw as the Creeper. He leans on the other heroes. Spider-Woman would be taking point, managing all the heroes behind the scenes as Oracle. With her hacking expertise, they'll have eyes all over the city. But what use are they if they can't see into the dark? For that is where Bane lies, recruiting villains across the city, causing mass hysteria and more issues for Spider-Man. With each fight he grows increasingly frustrated, always repeating the same question as he topples another foe. Where is Bane? What does he want? Donning the suit has become a chore, Bane the only thing driving him on. But after him, what's next for Spider-Man? Defeating Bane won't make the city love him. After everything is wrapped up, he needs to have a serious talk with himself. Bane succeeds in undermining the Joker, toppling the Clown Prince of Crime, and making off with a large part of his crew. Harley Quinn leads Spider-Man to him. He finds Joker bloody and broken, but still laughing. It was not without help that Bane was able to achieve this. He forms a strategic alliance with the Penguin, the former Kingpin who still sits in Blackgate Penitentiary. Unlike the Joker, Penguin seems to be a far more profitable and beneficial ally. With this new deadly alliance, the sun shall never rise upon Gotham again. Months will pass by, and it'll not only be Spider-Man close to their breaking point, the other heroes are completely spent and spread thin, and while they have found success in pushing back crime, it doesn't stop until Bane is. And then, finally, a tip. A hideout. A bunker built by the Wayne family some years ago, abandoned now that they are gone, expanded and invaded now that Bane is here. It seems to be part of a series of similar bunkers built by Gotham's wealthy, all connected by a network of interconnected tunnels running through Gotham's sewers and underground lines. That's how Bane's been hiding this entire time. Peter also ponders the possibility of if the tunnels somehow connect to Arkham. Is that how Joker keeps escaping from that wretched place? Spider-Woman formulates a plan, but with the other birds of prey unable to help, it only leaves Spider-Man and Huntress as the only two able to confront Bane. Spider-Man thinks that that's all they need. Surely there's a reason Bane has hidden from them for so long. He's often thought about this moment. A slow obsession. Laying awake at night, thinking of how he'll finally beat him. But that's exactly what Bane wanted. As they make their way, Huntress confides in him that she doesn't think a direct assault is gonna work. The reason for this is because Oracle would have done her homework over these months, scavenging for whatever scraps of Bane's history and abilities that she could find. I don't think his origins will be known to them, but definitely him taking over Santa Prisca, naming himself king, and possibly about the strength of his venom. Whatever the case, Huntress is being cautious. She thinks that it's possible even Spider-Man's strength could be overpowered by their new foe. Spider-Man reluctantly agrees, and they decide to split up. Spider-Man plans to go in the natural way, while Huntress will find an alternative route and hopefully catch Bane unawares. He easily finds the entrance to the bunker, kicking the door in and throwing hands with whoever he can find on the other side. A brutal and claustrophobic confrontation occurs on the stairs descending from the bunker's opening, with Spider-Man effortlessly dispatching of thugs until one lets a minigun rip up the staircase. Spider-Man scrambles to save the bodies lying in its path, tasing the weapon's wielder and entering the bunker's main room. The tables are littered with all sorts of stuff, mainly money and contraband, things that Peter will have to worry about later. Within the bunker, he starts to get a strange feeling. Bane was not waiting here. It's clear that this is where their operations, let's say, are taking place. The goons he defeated have affirmed that Bane was here. Did he run? It's easy to underestimate the terrifying intelligence of Bane, but as Peter looks blankly around the room, he's gonna start realizing that Bane has orchestrated this encounter between them. He hasn't one-upped Bane. The master criminal has only slipped up after so many months because it's time. It's time for them to meet, and it will be on Bane's terms. Then so be it, Spider-Man will decide. The chase begins. Spider-Man swings through the doors, taking him into the tunnels under the city. Bane is here, and he's not going to let him slip through his fingers. The thing is a complete labyrinth. There's many twists and turns, some lead nowhere, some lead to abandoned rail lines and parts of an older age. There's also stairs, with doors leading to what is most likely the surface, probably for engineers and the like to, do builder stuff. But the handles are rusted, the stairs decrepit, it's hard to be sure. More thugs begin pouring out from the different corners and caverns of these tunnels. He tackles them head on, effortlessly leaping from foe to foe until they're left behind, squirming. By tracking where the others ran, he finds himself at a wall, cleanly struck with piles of its bricks scattered around it on the ground. The thing he immediately notes is the stench coming from the other side of the wall. Bane's led himself into Gotham sewers, and so Spider-Man crawls closely behind. But while in Gotham sewers, he begins to get that uneasy feeling once again. Something sinister lurks here, like prey stepping into a predator's domain. He cautiously continues on, and his senses led him true. For, as we all probably know well and true, the sewers, Gotham sewers, are the domain of the one and only Killer Croc. He flies out of the water, attempting to take Peter's head. He swerves hastily, swinging around and kicking Croc in the chest. The creature tumbles over and lands on his feet, hissing. Spider-Man realizes that Wayland is meant to be in Arkham. The Croc does not reply when prompted, instead snapping his jaws at the wall crawler, who dodges and weaves easily. He notices that Croc already looks a bit banged up. For the moment, he responds with a two-piece that pushes Croc back. Spider-Man closes the distance and shuts Croc's jaws with a tight grip. Croc swipes with his free hands, but Spider-Man leaps up and around onto his neck, forcing him slowly into submission. He asks Croc if he fought Bane, but he only growls at the mention of his name. Wayland tries his best to resist, before finally lashing out at Spider-Man for entering his dwelling. When Spider-Man tells him his home is in Arkham, Croc scoffs. He then goes on to reveal that it was Joker who let him into the sewers in the first place. He was to kill Spidey if he ever stumbled in on this secret. At that moment, Croc swipes at Spider-Man, sending him crashing into the wall. He gathers himself and dives back into the water, noting that he doesn't much care about Joker or Spider-Man, and just wants to be left alone. He turns back, his eyes flashing white in the darkness of the water.
You are not welcome here. If you find yourself back here, I will tear the flesh from your bones.
Spider-Man gets up and considers a pursuit of Killer Croc, though he is unlikely to cause any issues for the moment. The more pressing matter is Bane, so he continues on. He follows the signs of a scuffle and locates wet footprints, following them to a room where he's finally caught up to the trail of Bane's men. Some were halfway through a door when they turned to face him. Alarmed, they attacked at first sight. One barged through the door and yelled something incomprehensible. Spider-Man kicks one and punches another, holding them off until one took a bat to his head. He folded onto the ground instantly. He felt dizzy. Mostly, he was tired. One of you's called Bane from the clock tower. Looks like we caught ourselves a spider. Bane. At once, he remembered. He has to defeat Bane. So Spider-Man rose with the last of his fleeting drive, disarming the thug and breaking the bat over his head. More thugs pour out from the doors lying at the far opposite end to Peter. At the end of the ensuing brawl, he climbs over them to ascend the clock tower. Taking out more and more thugs, his comms begin to function once again and he's able to communicate with Huntress what he's learnt. As he reaches the final room at the top, he finds himself surrounded on all sides by Bane's henchmen. He ascended from stairs, but he can see doors on the other side of the clock tower. Peter prepares to fight once more, but his ears twitch at the sound of a ding. The thugs sneer and chuckle. The doors swing open and a hand sits upon one's shoulder. They slowly part as a figure ducks underneath the doorway and into the room. The thugs close the gap and then circle Spider-Man and what he's figured to be the master criminal, Bane. Bane slowly walks into the center, each step heavy and calculated. The eyes of his mask are fixed upon Spider-Man's, but he does not speak, even once. Peter breaks the silence. Didn't think a large guy like you would hide away for so long. Seriously, what is this? Fight Club? Bane chuckles, a sound sinister and unnerving.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally?
Okay, no, I'm joking.
Last year, they said you were unbreakable.
He points at Spider-Man.
This year, I wonder what they will say.
They begin to circle each other, each gauging the other to see who would take the first swing. You think Joker would just hand over his bounty after you left him leaking in that alleyway? I mean, you did what we are all thinking though. He looks around at that. Bane's thugs erupt in laughter, with Bane even putting his head down, his mask expressionless. But Spider-Man could swear he was smirking.
It interested me. For a while. Though it was not what I was after.
Bane explains how Gotham was more profitable than he thought. Soon he'll be making so much bank that the bounty would be so insignificant, so small. So much darkness here that Bane can almost feel at home. There's gonna be a couple of people who aren't gonna let that happen, and that's excluding me. You think that clown won't tear through this city for revenge? He loves it. I found him laughing in that alley. He's not human. A being of the dark that thrives off of chaos.
The spider should know of the dark. I know it. When I was 6, I watched my mother die, her corpse tossed aside like vermin. When I was 8, I killed a man for the first time. It would not be the last. Men like the Joker, I do not fear them.
You don't know this city, but Bane sharply cuts him off. Oh, you think you know this city? You think they love you? Spider-Man stops talking. I am the provider, the hand that feeds. I am the wise man.
the hand that guides. These hands, they command, they expect. He clenches his raised hands into fists, his henchmen cheering him on at his every word. The city hates you. They want to spit you out, but they fear me. I am the plague sent to torment your soul, like a torrent upon this city of ruin and despair. I am Venom. I am Bane. Spider-Man takes an uneasy step back. I just want to know how long you spent rehearsing that speech. The room looks at him, and only him. Spider-Man takes another step back, but his senses flare and he's pushed back into the circle. What is it that you want, Bane? Spider-Man asks, but he already knows the answer. Bane isn't after power, money or influence. These things are secondary to him. He's darkness, the light consumer. In a twisted way, at least Bane still thinks so highly of him. Bane cocks his head. I have succeeded, Spider. You have realized it. You know it. You know that I do not seek your head. Death would only silence your shame. I will only break you. He then charges at Spider-Man, initiating the fight. Spider-Man easily flips over Bane, the hulking man having to stop himself in his tracks. Spider-Man takes the opportunity to dropkick Bane in his back, but he never knew a man that large could move so fast. Bane turned on the spot, grabbing Spider-Man's legs, using the wall crawler's momentum to slam him into the walls of the clock tower, the thugs scrambling to move out of Bane's destructive path, but hailing his every move. The wall cracked on impact. Spider-Man gritted his teeth and spewed webs into Bane's face, stunning him momentarily. He then kicked Bane across the face and tackled him to the floor. Before Bane could grab him again, he jumped onto the ceiling and blasted his foe from afar. Bane struggles but can't free himself. Bane commends him on fighting well, and Spider-Man quips back. Bane starts laughing. He begins pumping himself with venom. His muscles engorge, pulsating grotesquely, stretching and thinning out Spider-Man's webs until he snaps free. He swings a mighty blow at Spider-Man, who narrowly dodges, flipping back and into the thugs behind him, who prepare to push him back into the circle. However, he uses the man as a vault and leaps off of him. He uses that momentum to dive at Bane as they both tumble over. Both quickly recover as Bane swipes at Spider-Man, smacking him across the room. He stabilizes himself with his web shooters, swinging around the room and landing near the face of the clock tower. Bane is quicker, launching himself at Spider-Man, but this time Peter waits. Bane nears closer. He waits until he twists out of his path in the last second. Using his webs, he launches himself at Bane, crashing through the clock tower's face, sending the both of them flying out into the open air. Thugs huddle around the shattered face, watching them both plummet. He gives the okay to Huntress, sending the signal for her to enter the clock tower. Spider-Man uses two webs to grab Bane again, heaving him like a pendulum into the clock tower as he plummets. Bane grabs the webs and pulls the spider towards him, grabbing his tiny head in his hands and smashing him into the building. Spider-Man tries to hit Bane, but he grabs his hand, throwing our hero through a window. Bane grabs the ledge and lifts himself back up into the clock tower once again. He holds his shoulder, winding it up carefully as he slowly walks up to a bruised Spider-Man. I know you did not come alone, though I admit, my judgment was overpowered by simple curiosity. I wanted to see how strong you are. Seeing you broken and pathetic like this has brought my senses back to me. You cannot trick me, Spider. Oh great, the master criminal is mad at me for misleading. Bane takes another step, but his foot gets stuck on a stray web. What? As he touches, the web lights up with electricity, shocking Bane. He shouts in agony. Oh, my bad. Did it again, did I? And now for my final trick. Spider-Man gets up, leaping towards Bane, but the brute remains unfazed by the electricity, the fumes slowly rising off of him, and he grabs Peter by the neck. Spider-Man tries to swipe at him, but Bane chokeslams him into the ground. Now dazed, Spider-Man is forced to take a brutal onslaught by Bane. punches, kicks, throws. Peter is beaten bloody, his costume tearing under the force. Much of the fight between Bane and Spider-Man would go like this. Peter needs to hit Bane in vital areas in order to actually hurt him, and Bane needs to actually catch Peter in order to hurt him. But more interestingly, both are kind of wrestlers, more specifically grapplers, and so they would heavily rely on their grapple techniques, attempting to pin their foe. I feel like this would be a heavily engaging battle due to their somewhat shared history as wrestlers, each seeking to outmaneuver the other and throw them around. Because if you remember, in the comics, Peter was actually a highly skilled wrestler, not only because of his powers. He was trained by Crusher Hogan, and here I've given him a similar backstory doing wrestler gigs for Penguin, who you can imagine can attract similar talent who would train Peter. And in this continuity, Spider-Man does not have his way of the spider martial arts technique, so his wrestling ability would be the primary way of defeating villains for him. As for Bane, he's not really a wrestler per se, as much as I could find out. More importantly, he seems to be a sort of grappler. But his outfit and design are obviously very wrestling inspired. Much of the way he fights, especially in the video games, is very wrestling-like. So it's not too much to assume he has some sort of wrestling history, probably underground wrestling or some sort of MMA tournaments in Santa Prisca. I mean, that doesn't happen in normal prisons, but Bane basically became king of Santa Prisca, and kings like tourneys. Throughout the battle, Bane would realize that Spider-Man is actually a skilled wrestler and probably commend him on this. Though obviously Bane is far more skilled, as he knows other such arts as well. During Bane's assault, he can hear Huntress calling his name through his comms. "Spider-Man, see if you can't pin him on the wall on your left." Spider-Man kicks up at Bane, hitting him clean across the face. He pushes himself off the ground, somersaulting into Bane with a heavy thud. Bane tries to swat Peter away. He flips over him on the wall Huntress wanted. Peter uses Bane as a pivot as he wraps him in webs before kicking him against the wall. Peter screams at Huntress, jumping out of the way. The explosions ring throughout the clock tower. Through the smoke, Bane walks out yet again, his veins bulging with venom. He grows larger and larger. His voice becomes an unintelligible growl. Swooping in to save him is Huntress, who neatly twirls around Bane and pumps him full of explosive bolts from her crossbow. Bane stumbles back, ridiculing Spider-Man for his weakness. Shaming him, he catches one of Huntress' bolts, punching her across the face, and then he lashes out at Spider-Man in a venom-induced frenzy. Peter dodges and weaves best he can around the brute, attacking cautiously. Huntress gathers her strength again and jumps in to aid him. I imagine it's a lot like that scene in Infinity War where they jump Thanos, but he's just tossing them aside casually. At this point, Bane's henchmen are swarming into the room. Since it's no longer a fair fight, the heroes are fair game. Huntress in the comics is no slouch. She's obviously not among the top fighters in her verse, but she handles herself well. In the comics, she's beaten Barbara Gordon in a hand-to-hand fight, and armed with her crossbow, she can easily take out multiple at a time, maiming them if need be with explosions. As for Spider-Man, between dodging hits from Bane, one-tapping criminals would be effortless for him. And so, at the end of it all, in a room full of bodies, Huntress, Spider-Man and Bane face off. Bane starts off with an aerial body press, pinning Huntress on the floor. He spins around with a violent strike for Spider-Man but misses. All three are tired, huffing and puffing their way through the battle. While Huntress struggles to her feet, Spider-Man goes hand to hand with Bane, running into his foe, and the brute responds with a back elbow, which connects, flipping him over onto the ground. Bane grabs his head and legs. Spidey breaks out, kicking him across the jaw and striking him in his stomach. Bane lurches forward and Spider-Man thinks he can finally get him. Spider-Man prepares to tackle his legs, but Bane is far more skilled than he is. Bane hits Spider-Man once, and then once more, and Peter falls back from the heavy blows. Bane turns his back to him, executing a standing backflip and landing on his opponent's chest first. Huntress shoots Bane before leaping at him, preparing a kick, but Bane blocks the attack. She uses her crossbow to hit Bane across the face. He grabs her wrist, pulling her towards him. She puts the crossbow between his eyes, shooting him at point blank range. In response, he hits her. She spins violently and crashes onto the floor. The bolt ticks. Bane rips it out of his head and tosses it. Then boom! It was close enough that Bane was put on his knees, the mask shredded, revealing the monster beneath, tasting blood on his lips at last.
There are numerous times in the comics where Bane has had weapons put against him and they either shatter, or if they do pierce his skin, they're unable to draw blood. Amped by venom, those bolts are not doing much, but I'll give Huntress her flowers. She's able to do a lot here considering her limited abilities. All Peter can think through blood vision is how a big guy like him can move like that. Bane rises to his feet. Peter is caught again. Bane raises him over his head. Peter feels weak. It ends with this. Bane brings Spider-Man down to shatter his back with his knee, but Spider-Man, mustering all of his strength, tears himself from Bane's grip. He crawls around on his back, ripping the venom tubes from the device strapped to him. At this point in the fight, both are now tired and desperate, essentially going bar for bar with different moves and attacks. Bane screams, but Spider-Man throws him to the ground. Bane scrambles to his feet, swinging at Spider-Man. He dodges, trying to hit him on the counter, but Bane blocks the attack, grabbing Spider-Man's arm and twisting it around. He feels his bones shattering, but Peter manages to kick him off of him. As the venom leaves his system, Bane seems to be losing his strength, so Spider-Man gathers himself and jumps at him a final time, hitting him square across his bouncing chin. Bane falls flat on his back, defeated at last. When it comes to the technicalities of Bane vs Spider-Man, the immediate thing to realize is that Bane is meant to be powerless, while Spider-Man has established powers and strength that comes from said powers. Bane is pretty strong in his own right, a master of martial arts, allowing him to go toe to toe and, depending on who you ask, even defeat Batman. The most consistent thing that comes with his character is his immense strength and fighting ability, being in peak physical condition, but most of his strength comes from the use of venom. Now venom allows him to do pretty crazy things. He once one-tapped Man-Bat, defeated Solomon Grundy, and tossed Killer Croc aside like a ragdoll. Seriously, why was the forever evil version of Bane busted? Bane is fast for his size and also has great durability feats such as surviving Batman's tasers and other such things. But Peter Parker is the amazing Spider-Man. He is capable and shown to do most of the strength feats that Bane has performed, even outperforming Bane in some cases. He's punched Venom, someone arguably similar in size to Bane, and sent him flying across the street. He's broken out of Iron Man's grip, which makes it harder to see how Bane is going to keep his hands on him. Peter just edges out in every attribute. The only thing that Bane would consistently have over Peter is his combat knowledge, intelligence and experience, which serves to make him an especially dangerous fighter. I mean, he has to be in order to give Batman trouble on numerous occasions. And considering this fight is on Bane's terms, Peter is not going to have a comfortable victory over him, but he will have a victory. Huntress helps him up, and he leans on her for support as they make their way out of the clock tower together. Spider-Woman arrives on the scene with GCPD sirens sounding off in the distance and nearing closer. They leave the scene for them to clean up. Spider-Man unfurls his mask up to his nose to spit blood out. Along with the bruises and broken bones, he practically almost passes out as the adrenaline wears off. He manages to talk himself into keeping awake through Spider-Woman's updates. She tells him that the other birds of prey have mostly fought back against Bane's henchmen, him unable to manage them during his fight with Spidey, though there are now clashes between the last of Joker's henchmen and Bane's. With all that research I did into those old bunkers, the rich families of Gotham, the Waynes, I think I figured out where Joker gets all his money from. It's Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne? Peter says. The name seems familiar, though he does not recall properly. The missing prince of Gotham? Well, whatever. This
Joker, imagine him as a pirate. Somehow he stumbled upon the biggest treasure of them all, an untapped trust fund for a billionaire's kid. A pirate, yeah, that's really the best you could have come up with. Still, with all the terrifying minds in Gotham, it's odd that Joker was the one to get to it first. Huntress remarks that it was probably unknown. If all the villains of today had discovered a thing existed, Gotham would be carved inside out until one of them found it. The thought makes him shiver, though he remembers it'll be a problem for somebody else, and then he falls into silence. I think I'm done. Spider-Woman responds as if she hadn't heard, but Spider-Man repeats it again. I can't do this whole thing anymore. No matter how many lives I save, this city will never love me again. They stop at a rooftop, the center of the city fading out behind them. Great black behemoths towering off into the sky. He could see it all from here, his eyes halting at LexCorp, where it all began. Spider-Woman throws a medic kit at Huntress, who catches it and patches herself up. Do you do it for respect? Peter uses his webs to form a brace for his broken arm. His other shattered bones he decides he'll need to see a doctor for. Last year I lost myself, lost track of why I go out there. Still, I don't feel like I've got it back. Maybe it's just that I'm not responsible for this city anymore. You can share that responsibility, you know, Spider-Woman adds, or I can pass it on to people better suited. Spider-Woman and Huntress look uneasy. They turn to each other, then back to Peter. I'm tired, he admits. Spider-Woman tells him to get some rest and think it over, but he's already made his mind up. They separate and Peter makes his way back home, passing out in his bed. In the morning he wakes to Dick Grayson offering him breakfast. Bane, huh? They talk about recent events, and for a while it's nice to talk to him like this again. At the end of it, he can tell Dick has something to say. I'm leaving, he announces at once, explaining that he's boarding a ship to go overseas. Peter has been holding him back, and it's time for him to do things his way, the way he wants to. Peter begins to speak but stops himself. He tells him that it's the right thing to do, and that he's proud of him. They embrace. Later that day, a teary-eyed Peter and weeping Aunt May see Dick off as he boards. A problem I had with Dick Grayson in this continuity is that there was no way to train him or the other Robins. Batman was a learned martial artist and a great mentor and teacher. Spider-Man does not fall into that category, especially when he's still figuring things out. The best course of action for Dick Grayson is to take matters into his own hands and embark on a very similar journey that Bruce Wayne had in the normal timeline. He'll travel the world training with the very best, to become the very best. And then later, when he's ready, he'll return home. It's a similar situation that happened in the Teen Titans cartoon when Robin went off the train, leaving the other Titans back in the tower. That afternoon, Peter takes his costume to an alleyway in Gotham City. He looks at it for a moment, the words of Uncle Ben echoing in his head. He shakes his thoughts and dumps the suit in a nearby bin. It's time for Peter to live his life. Spider-Man was the dream of a teenager. He walks off, his head held high, but Spider-Man no more. And that concludes today's part. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I apologize for the background noise present in like half of the video. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.